legit Cy Young type guys over there that are coming out of the bullpen. I would love to see it. I just don't know that it's going to happen. So we'll see. It's one thing, good pitching beats good hitting in a World Series, but I don't know about in a one-game scenario, especially when you've got managers that are doing their best to try to get guys in that want to actually play in the game. And both Dave Roberts and Alex Cora talked about that balance yesterday of still trying to win the game. However, they want to make sure that they want to make sure that everybody gets in that wants to be in.
Yeah.
So I still think the American League's going to pull it out, but would love to see the National League take this one.
Absolutely, and again, this has nothing to do with our conversation with the All-Star tournament. Once again, I seem to do that very often. But there's a few names on the reliever side of things for the pitcher for the National League that potentially they are going to potentially be a part of the Braves here after the All-Star break. There's Will Smith of the Giants, Kirby Yates of the Padres, Vasquez of the Pirates. So there's three names right there that potentially could all be a part of the Atlanta Braves, or at least one or two of them. So it's going to be interesting. But I love what the pitchers have. The upper hand, in my opinion, over for the National League is over the American League, is the pitching-wise. So it's going to be interesting. But before we talked about the All-Star break, I mentioned about the starter in Justin Verlander for, obviously, Houston. Mentioned that Major League Baseball this year has juiced the baseballs. And Commissioner came out right away and said, he sees a difference in how they're flying. But he says that Major League had no part in that. So it's going to be – I'm excited. I'm actually pretty excited to see how this kind of unfolds, especially he said it right before the Home Run Derby and right before he starts in the All-Star game. Verlander has given up 26 home runs already this season, but that's the most he's ever given up before the All-Star break. And majority, I think, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but that's more than he's given up really in a whole season a few different times. So it's interesting that he said that right before this because he knew people were going to be watching and listening and reading and all sorts of different scenarios. What do you think they're a little on the juicer side?
I mean, I could see how that would be the case, but I'm not really. Here's my thought process. Last night, I could see them using, quote unquote juiced balls. I know that the pitchers have said stuff about the leather being different and that sort of thing. It's a little bit difficult to get a grip on the ball. But, I remember hearing whenever I was growing up, Trey, I know you heard the same thing. I remember hearing that the best pitch is a well-located fastball. And it was funny. Everybody probably remembers Mark Pryor. He is a special assistant, maybe even minor league pitching coordinator for the Cubs, I want to say. I can't remember. But he came up. He was a phenom. He was supposed to be the next Kerry Wood. Turns out he was the next Kerry Wood because he was very injury-prone. But I remember he got his first start was against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And, he was throwing 96, 97. That was blazing back then. That's about normal now. But he threw a 96-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle to Brian Giles, who never had amazing home run numbers, but even Brian Giles was like, no, you're not going to do that in this league. You can do that in AAA. You can do that in AA. But Brian Giles hit it straight out to center field at Wrigley Field. But the problem is you've got pitchers now that are doing that as well. They're throwing it as hard as they can, and that's why you see. That's why you're seeing this three outcome scenario. Either it's a home run, batter walks, or the batter strikes out. And the reason for that is because the pitchers are supplying the power because they're throwing harder than they ever have before. And so whenever you've got a guy that's throwing 97 plus, and a guy that swings as hard as some of these guys do. I mean, we saw Vlad Guerrero swinging out of his shoes last night. Now, that's for the home run derby, so he's not swinging like that every at bat in every game. But still, when you got guys that are swinging as hard as these guys do, I mean, they don't. Even still, some of these guys, and you heard some of the broadcasters. I think it was Teixeira last night. He said something about the fact that the players today have said that with pitchers throwing so hard, sometimes all they have to do is get a bat on the ball, and the ball is gone.
Yep.
It's one of those things. If guys would learn to pitch instead of just throw, I think we would see the home run totals go down. I really, truly do. I know that we've talked about Greg Maddux before on this on this show. We're big Greg Maddux fans for obvious reasons, not just the fact that he's a Braves guy, but he's just a phenomenal pitcher, phenomenal mind. But I mean, we saw Dallas Keuchel on Sunday. He didn't go over 90 miles an hour, and he limited hits, he limited walks. He also didn't have very many strikeouts, but he had ground ball after ground ball after ground ball. And that's action. That's what people want. That's why people love home runs, is because that's all the action they're getting. If that's one of the three outcomes, that's all they're getting. That's why they love it. And so that's why I think we're juicing the balls, is because potentially we're juicing the balls is so we can get more action. But if guys would just learn how to pitch, and we would not be bringing up guys that are effectively wild, i.e. Mike Fultonevich, if we would get guys that would actually learn how to pitch, throw that fastball. Think about John Smoltz. John Smoltz could throw it by anybody. If he wanted to, he really could. But he would throw it about 94, 95 on a regular basis. And when he needed to, he could reach back and throw that 96, 97, 98. But that's not where he lived. Most guys today, that's where they live. And so I really think that if we can get pitchers that really, truly, 100% learn how to pitch and learn how to get out, not just through a strikeout, then we'll see a drop in the home runs. That's my personal opinion.
Well, and I love that you mentioned you walked through that, because I have the same feel of what, or the mindset of what you have as well. I think the big difference is the age difference and the generation that our pitchers are growing up in. Growing up, back in the early 90s, they didn't come out and say, they weren't born or learned how to swing for the fences every single time. And so now in the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, they're starting to grow up where they're being taught how to just swing for the fences, make sure every single swing you're going for a home run. And that's because people love, like you mentioned, people love that. But for the pitching side of things, that if you have a 95, 96, 97 fastball, no matter if you can't hit this inside or the outside or whatever in the plate, you just throw it, you're going to be called up to the major leagues. And that's the reality of it as of right now. But you see the ones like a Dallas Keuchel, a CC Sabathia, a John Smoltz, a Tom Glavine. You see the guys that's been doing it for, obviously a few that I mentioned are retired, but you see if they've been in the major leagues for more than 10 plus years or whatever, or even 8 to 10 years, you see that the velocity started to come down, and they really learned how to pitch. So you see CC Sabathia and Dallas Keuchel, two perfect examples in this. That when they were younger, they were throwing in the mid 94, 95s. Let's be honest. But then they realized, I'm not going to be in this league very long if I don't learn how to pitch. And so we see now that CC, he's continued to be in his Hall of Fame career, and he doesn't look like he's slowing down. Yes, he's been on the injury prone this year, but he's learned how to hit the outside corner. He's learned how to hit the inside corner. Not have to throw 88, 89 miles per hour. Just like Dallas Keuchel. He's going to give you maybe the max all out is 91 miles per hour, okay? But he's one of the best ground ball pitchers we've seen in quite some time, and that's why the Atlanta Braves want him, because he didn't give up so many home runs. Yes, he's not going to give you the eye-popping strikeout numbers, but we don't need him to do that. I mean, so like I mentioned in our last podcast for the Bravo Time Sports, I mentioned, look, we can give up 2 or 3 runs a game because our offense is going to give you 6 or 7. But when we have to get 8 or 9 every single game, that's when it's tough. So the guys that come in, like our relievers, if they come in and say, I'm just going to try to throw past these guys, we see what happened. And, we're starting to see the resemblance of before May of a few of our relievers. Obviously, Swarzak is looked to be activated this before the Friday's game, which is great. I'll get into the injury list here in just a second on our next segment. But I agree with you. I don't know if the balls are juiced itself, but I think, just like what you said, that the pitchers really do not know how to pitch the ball. They don't know how to go up there and just be a pitcher. So I'm interested to see how the second half is going to be. I think we're going to see, all-time records for home runs this year. I think I'm not alone on that assessment. So I think the ball, there's something going on, but that's what. Let's be honest. That's what the younger generation wants to see. So we don't care about our starting pitchers going past 5 innings. We don't care if our relief pitchers can't get or go longer than 1, because you have the 5, 6, 7 guys in your bullpen that can come in and hopefully do something, can get that one batter out. So maybe the balls are a little bit juiced, but I think I love what you mentioned, that if the pitchers itself, learned how to be able to pitch correctly, is the best way to put it, I think we'll definitely see a difference. We're almost out of time. We actually went a little bit longer on that segment, but the second half push for the Atlanta Braves. The injury update for the Atlanta Braves. Kevin Gossman is on a 10-day IL now. He will likely be activated and rejoin the team around a little bit after the All-Star break. Ender Inciarte is still on the injured list. He should be back here in the middle of July. Darren O'Day should be sometime in August. He is out with a forearm injury, and then Andrew Swarzak should be activated for the Padres matchup on Friday. He went out with a shoulder concern, so I'm a little bit worried about what he's going to come back and be. If we can get just a little bit, about 85% of Anthony Swarzak, I think we're going to be okay. What are you looking for? Like I said, we have to do this a little bit quicker than we expected, but what are you looking forward to the most here in the second half for the Atlanta Braves?
Looking forward to watching them push towards another division title with the help of the team as we've seen it so far. Looking forward to seeing what upgrades Alex Anthopoulos makes. Where we're looking at potential for a starter upgrade. We're looking at potential relief upgrade with the inclusion of a closer, as we saw that we needed on Sunday. But I think one of the main things I'm looking forward to, I want to see Austin Riley get out of this funk that he's in. I believe his K rate is at his percentage, strikeout percentage right now is 40% of his at bats. And he's got to learn how to lay off that slider. He needs to go see Chipper Jones, just like Dansby did, something. And I think that's one of the main things I'm looking forward to, is watching Austin Riley develop. Because no matter how much you develop in the minor leagues, you still have to develop yourself up in the major leagues as well. As we've seen Ronald Acuna make some adjustments. We've seen other players make adjustments. Even Josh Donaldson made an adjustment a month ago. So I want to see Austin Riley make some adjustments and see how those pan out. I think that's one of the main things I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. We see Freddie Freeman has 23 home runs. Albies has 14. Swanson with 17. Donaldson now has 18. Riley with 16. And Ronald Acuna with 21 home runs on the season. I'm excited to see what they continue to do. But I'm also, like you mentioned, I'm excited to see what if Austin Riley can continue